They were young athletes, flying over the Andes for a rugby match. Then, in an instant, their plane slammed into the mountains, tearing apart in the freezing snow. No food, no rescue, no way out. For 72 days, they were trapped in the icy wilderness, forced to face the unthinkable to survive. Today, on Time Secrets, we bring you the miracle of the Andes, the true story of how a group of ordinary people endured the impossible, made haunting moral choices, and defied death in one of history's most gripping survival stories. Stay until the end to uncover what they did, how they escaped, and what their journey reveals about the power of the human spirit. It was October 13th, 1972. The Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 carried 45 people, including the Old Christians Club rugby team, their friends, and family. They were young, excited, and full of life as they flew toward Chile. But as they crossed the Andes, the weather turned harsh. The pilots believed they had cleared the mountains, but they hadn't. The plane clipped a ridge, the tail ripped off, the fuselage slammed into a glacier, sliding like a sled until it came to a crushing stop. Snow swirling into the broken fuselage. In a matter of seconds, everything changed. Others were severely injured, bones shattered, heads bleeding, breath visible in the freezing air. Chaos. Screams. 12 people died instantly. The survivors were left in shock, sitting in the wreckage, surrounded by endless snow and mountains that pierced the sky. At first, they believed rescue would come. They saw planes fly by in the distance and prayed someone would spot the wreckage. But as the days passed, reality set in. There was no food except a few chocolate bars and bottles of wine. They tried to ration, breaking small pieces to pass around. They melted snow in cans for water, using the sun's faint warmth. At night, temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. They huddled together under torn seat covers, trying to keep each other alive with body heat. They were young athletes, but even the strongest felt weakness creeping in. Hunger was a constant pain, gnawing at their minds as much as their bodies. After 8 days, they heard the news on a small transistor radio. They managed to get working. Search for them had been called off. They were officially presumed dead. Imagine hearing that you were considered dead, that no one is coming. While you sit on a frozen mountain surrounded by bodies of your friends, in that moment they realized no one was coming. It was up to them to survive. As starvation worsened, the survivors faced a horrifying reality. There was nothing left to eat. Surrounded by the frozen bodies of their friends, they understood that if they wanted to live, they would need to do the unthinkable. They wrestled with fear, guilt, and faith. They prayed, they cried, they hesitated. Then one by one they made the decision to survive. They cut small pieces of flesh, frozen and cold, to sustain their bodies. It was a decision born not from savagery, but from the desperate will to live. Just as they began to regain some strength, tragedy struck again. On the 17th day, an avalanche roared down the mountain in the middle of the night, burying the fuselage and everyone inside. 8 more people died. Those who survived clawed through snow and darkness, gasping for air, digging their way back into the freezing world. The avalanche took away the little hope they had rebuilt, leaving them trapped in a tomb of ice, yet they refused to give up. With no rescue coming, the survivors knew their only chance was to escape. They studied the mountains, debated routes, and crafted makeshift gear from aircraft insulation to protect against the cold. Fernando Parado and Roberto Canessa, 2 of the strongest among them, volunteered for the impossible. To cross the Andes with almost no equipment, no maps, and no guarantees. They knew they might never return. But if they didn't try, they would all die. Parado and Canessa set out, climbing peaks that rose like walls, their feet wrapped in rags, carrying only a homemade sleeping bag, scraps of food, and faith. Each day was a test of endurance and spirit. Snow blinded them, the cold bit into their bones, and hunger gnawed relentlessly. At night they slept side by side, using each other's warmth to stay alive. On the 9th day, exhausted and near collapse, they saw a green valley in the distance. They were out of the mountains. Near a river, they spotted a Chilean shepherd, Sergio, on horseback. They shouted, but the roar of the river drowned their voices. Brado found a pencil and paper, writing, "I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am Uruguayan. We need help." The shepherd threw them bread, then rode for help. News of the survivors spread like wildfire. On December 20th, 1972, 72 days after the crash, helicopters flew to the crash site to rescue the remaining survivors. 16 people were pulled from the mountains, their bodies frail, their eyes filled with the pain of what they endured, but alive. They had done the impossible. The world was in shock when they learned how the survivors had stayed alive. Some criticized them, others wept for them. But as the survivors shared their story, people began to understand the brutal choices they had faced. It was a story not of shame, but of survival, courage, and the bond that kept them alive. The Miracle of the Andes is a story of what it truly means to fight for life. It shows the raw will of human beings to survive when all hope is lost. It is about the strength we find in each other, the pain of impossible choices, and the light of hope that can guide us through the darkest nights. It is a reminder that even in the coldest, most hopeless places, the human spirit can endure. If this story moved you, imagine how many hidden stories of human strength remain untold. Like this video, subscribe to Time Secrets, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next exploration into the world's most powerful true stories. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the greatest secrets of time are revealed not in triumph, but in survival.